This video is part 2 of 3, where I'm going to show you how I created this decorative cage to go around my picnic table, which is rose gold. I'll walk you through how I set that up as well, and I'm going to show you how I created this indoor picnic look. In part 1, I went over the pillows that I use and gave them a thorough review. And in part 3, I'm going to show you how I created this simple and easy rose gold backdrop. Welcome to Event Styles LLC, where we bring the style to your events. So the first thing that I did was actually expand the seating area. The guest count is 12, so I wanted to make sure that all 12 would be able to fit on the 4-foot tables. Because 4-foot tables are smaller, I was really nervous about that. And I got all these tables from Walmart, and you're going to see that the second table that I had, the black one, was actually taller than the white one. So I was really surprised because they're both the same brand, but I ended up just swapping it out with another white 4-foot table, and it worked out perfectly. So now you're just seeing me actually position the pillows to where the guests will be. I'm just doing this to make sure that I have enough space to fit all 12, and I ended up having more than enough space, so I was very pleased with that. So now I'm going to set up the string lights. Originally, I had the idea of having it go behind where the food table was going to be, but I ended up putting it on the wall instead. Right now, you're seeing me unwrap each and every individual strand of lights, which was a terrible idea. I didn't know at the time, but this causes it to become tangled. So what I should have done was hang it into position first and then unwrap it. But you know what? Lesson learned. If you decide to do this and include string lights in your setup, just be sure that you do this step of unwrapping it after you have everything hung up. So now I'm going to set up my first backdrop stand. In total, I used 3, one behind the food table, one above the picnic table, and one for the actual backdrop. I got all of these from E-Mart. That's where I usually go for my backdrop stands. The beautiful thing about these stands are that they're all adjustable. So if I need one to be longer, if I need it to be shorter, I'm able to do that. And they're pretty tall too. They're 8 feet tall and they go up to 10 feet wide. If you are enjoying this video, be sure to like, comment down below what you think, and subscribe. These backdrop stands are super easy to use. They're not that expensive and they last a long time. So initially I had the string lights on the backdrop stand that went behind the food table, and I was attaching it to the backdrop stand using zip ties. As you can see, it's literally so hard to even get it up because the individual strings are sticking together. So I wish I didn't unwrap the individual strings. I decided to actually switch out the string lights with this rose gold fringe instead. I thought the string lights would look a lot better behind the table as opposed to behind the picnic table as opposed to behind the food table. So that's why I decided to do the swap. All I had to do was detach the little white part that you see me pulling from the fringe because it is self-adhesive. So I just stuck that directly onto my backdrop stand, and it literally took a matter of seconds. The only thing is these fringe are very fragile, so when I had it down here, for me to be able to reach it, I ended up stepping on it and I ripped the teeny tiniest part of it. So be careful. me stepping on it, not even that hard, was powerful enough to rip it. So just be careful whenever you're working with fringe because they are very, very delicate. So this is what it looks like so far. Now I'm going to set up the second backdrop stand that's going to go above the picnic table. My goal is to make it look like we have florals hanging above the table. So that's why I decided to add a second one here. This backdrop stand is from Emart, super easy to use, and it's also affordable. These are faux vines from Amazon. What I'm going to do is try to create like somewhat of like a box around the picnic table where on each side is like a different like element. This event was actually supposed to be outdoors, so what I originally envisioned, like on all sides there was something that I was going to, you know, enhance. So that's why I got like the cage idea. So for this side, what I'm going to do is tape the vines together and have them attached to the upper corner of the backdrop stands. I also ended up adding the white wisteria in the same place where the vines were. I just made sure that I really, really tied in the wisteria more than I did the vines because the vines were a little more delicate. I also tied the vines and the wisteria to the rose gold fringe that went behind the food table. Because I didn't like the dripping effect, I went ahead and I taped it into place. So now it's time to try again to hang up the string lights. Don't drag me, but I had a very hard time figuring out how to keep it in a straight line. So another tip that I would recommend is to step back from time to time to make sure that you're going in a straight line. As you'll see like soon, like I did a pretty bad job keeping it straight, but don't worry, I'm gonna go back and readjust once I see how it looks. And like I had so much tangling with these strings, it's insane. So again, like make sure that you unwrap it like last after you're satisfied with where everything is positioned. And I just use regular tape to hold it into place. Another alternative would be mounting tape. I think it would have been a little bit stronger than what I was using, but this worked, you know, good enough for me. Don't forget to like, comment down below what you think, what would you do differently, and subscribe. If you didn't know, this video was actually posted to my Instagram first. So if you aren't following us at the Event Styles LLC on Instagram, you are missing out. This is where it was initially. I took it off and then I repositioned it. If you haven't watched it already, be sure to check out part 1 where I went over the throw pillows that I used and I gave a thorough review of what I think of them. So now it's time to create the hanging floral effect. So what I did was I tied my wisteria to the backdrop stand itself, and then for the middle parts, what I'm going to do is zip tie it into place. I used probably 2 or 3 zip ties to get it up there. I wanted to cover up as much of the black bar as I could, so I wasn't really fond of how it was drooping in some places. So what I could have done is either used more zip ties in the places where I noticed it was kind of drooping, but what I ended up doing was just using tape to just like secure it into place. So next I'm going to use hanging wisteria that I also got from Amazon. Check out the description box below. I'm going to have everything that I used linked there. I had to hook the little stem that comes with it around the backdrop part itself. It took literally seconds to do. Super, super easy. This little piece broke, so I just taped it directly to the backdrop stand. So now I'm going to set up the food table. I'm just going to use regular gold plastic tablecloths that I got from Walmart. I ended up using 2 on it because of how wide the actual table was, and I wanted it to be touching the floor, so that's why I used 2. These were probably less than $5, super affordable, and they got the job done. Now it's time to actually set up the picnic table. So I got these rose gold reflective tablecloths from Amazon. It'll be linked in the description box below. I ended up having to use 2 because again I didn't want too much of the legs to be showing, so I tried to have as much of the sides covered up as I could, so that's why I used 2. So this is the tableware that I ended up using, also from Amazon. Check the description box for that. These are the napkins, the plates, dessert plates, cups, silverware. I set the dessert plates first. Then I'm going to put the napkins directly on top of the dinner plates, and then the dessert plates to cover up the napkin, and then a napkin on the side because that's where I'm going to put the silverware, and I wanted some contrast in color between the tablecloth and the actual silverware because they're both rose gold, so I didn't want it directly onto the tablecloth. And just like that, my friends, it is done. I ended up adding some tea tree lights and roses to the center. And the cups I set up off camera. But you guys, that is literally it. It doesn't take long at all. Up next, we have the DIY rose gold backdrop.